Hi everybody, Lori here from Unique in the Creek, and today I'm going to do a beautiful burgundy rose, and burgundy roses are like one of my favorites. It's such a deep, rich color, and this is just a normal deco mesh with a metallic stripe in it, and we are going to be using the large flower board from Unique in the Creek, and we're going to be using zip ties. I use 18-pound zip ties. It doesn't matter what length they are. 6.5 or 6 to 9 inches are the best bet to use. I use clothespins a lot, and you'll see why. I'm going to need a rotary cutter or electric scissors or normal scissors, whatever you use to cut your deco mesh. You do not need to use a wood burner or a bag sealer or anything like that, because you will not see any of the edges, so don't waste your time. Okay, I'm just going to show you how I quickly cut my mesh. So this is a 21-inch roll. I am going to cut this in 9-inch pieces. You can do 10-inch as well. Okay, so I just bring it right over. You can put some weight on the edge here. And I'm going to cut this at 10 inches. I'm going to make this the perfect rose. So I'm going to do 10 inches. If you only have one roll of mesh, just do 9 inches. You will not be able to tell, okay? 10 inches is just easier to work with. So I'm going to cut this at 10 inches, and this is a 21-inch roll. Now you can make your rose with 10-inch mesh, no problem. Just make sure it's got, it's a good quality mesh, and it has like thick foil or something in it. Fabric mesh makes an absolutely amazing rose. I would not use poly burlap to make a rose because it doesn't hold its shape. It's expensive and it frays like crazy, and there's no need to use 21 or poly burlap on a rose. Okay, so that is how I cut my roll, and I will cut the whole roll like this. Okay. Next, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to preload your zip ties on the board. This is much easier done as you're sitting watching a movie, doing it on your lap. Make yourself comfy, because you're going to want to preload all these holes, okay? And what I mean by this is you're going to get your zip tie, and we're going to start on number 5. You're going to go down one hole and up the other. And then you're going to take the flat side of your zip tie and bring it to the tail of your zip tie, and you'll hear a zipping sound. Okay, so we're going to do that again. So again, down, up, and zip. Okay, you need to hear that sound. If you don't hear that sound, more than likely your zip tie is in backwards. Okay, and it's really hard to put them actually in backwards. Okay. So you're going to do all your holes. So each row, 5, 4, 3, and 2. Preload your zip ties just like I have done. Leave holes number 1 because they are done just a little bit different. You'll also notice that you have 2 holes at the top with number 1 in between. They have a bit of a divot in it. These are your hanging holes, and you can use twine or string. I just use a zip tie because I always have a zip tie available to make a hanging hole, a hanging string. So something that the wreath can hang with. And I like to use my wreaths outside, so I just use a zip tie to make my hanging string, because just like our board, it is plastic, 100% recyclable plastic, I must say. And the zip ties are plastic, so they're both weatherproof as well as deco mesh. Deco mesh too is weatherproof. It will fade if you don't spray it, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Okay, so right now you're going to preload your board, and we will start back as soon as you've done that. Press play when you're done. Thanks, guys. Okay, so we're back. So you have your board all preloaded. So we're going to make our petal now. So I'm going to be using, like I said, I'm using 21-inch. If you were doing 10-inch, you wouldn't have to do this first step, but the petal would be exactly the same. So we have our 21-inch piece, and as you can see, it's got a natural curl to it. So we're going to go with that curl. So you're going to open up your piece and you're going to take the top of it and you're going to bring it straight down and match it up with your bottom piece, right? Just like so. Okay, and we want it as even as possible. So you might have to play with it a bit. Okay, there we go. So it looks like one uniform piece. Now this will give you very, very good coverage on your board, and it will also give you a very vibrant and luxurious rose. Okay, so once you got it folded in half, this is where you would start if you were using your 10-inch. Okay, so this will be a 10 by 10, well, 10 by and a half by 10 piece. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around like into a diamond shape. I'm going to take the top corner of the diamond and bring it right straight down. Now I have a double piece here, so I'm just going to kind of hold my hand so it stays in one piece and bring it down. I'm going to turn it to the side and I'm going to just scrunch it in the middle here, and it leaves about a 2-inch tail. Now this is where your clothespins come in handy. I like to clothespin my tail. Okay, I'll do that again. And your whole rose will be this exact petal. Okay, so again, we're going to take the top, bring it straight down, measure it up in the bottom. Okay, one uniform piece. Okay, look at the color coverage on that. It's going to be stunning. You're going to turn this into a diamond. You're going to take the corner of your diamond, bring it right over, turn it, swing it to the side, and scrunch so you have about a 2-inch tail left. Okay, now usually when I do my rose, I do start from the inside of the rose bud and I work my way to the outside. Okay, for teaching purposes, I'm going to show you right now how to do the outside first. Now, it's your decision if you want to do the outside first, but I would recommend starting on the inside and then working your way out. Now, to do, for me to teach you, it's much easier for you to see on the board how I do the outside, so you are not looking through a whole bunch of mesh. Okay, so I have my preloaded board here and I have done a few petals on it already, and we are going to be using for the outside board, keep in mind all this would be full of mesh already, okay, because these are preloaded, but I'm going to show you how to do the outside parts first. So what you're going to do is you're going to take one of your zip ties, and on row number 1 there is 8 holes. In those 8 holes, you're going to put a zip tie. Just put it through from the bottom, through the hole. And you're going to take one of these umbrella-shaped petals that you just made, and you're going to put a zip tie around it. Just like so. You can take that off now once you get the zip tie in there. Now, not too tight, because we're going to want to fit a zip tie through the back of this. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your petal, with it looks like a stingray almost, and you're going to take that zip tie that you just put on the edge here, and you're going to put it through the back of the petal, and then just do this up to a little bit till you hear that zipping sound, and your tail for the outside is going to face inwards. Okay, once we start the rest of the rows, you will see that all our petals always, the tails always go outwards. The only time it doesn't go outwards is the very last row. Okay, and like I said, it's really hard to show you the last row when there's a whole bunch of mesh on the board. So I thought I would do it this way, and then we will start on the center after I've showed you the outside. Okay, so I'm going to do one more because I have one more of the 8 on the outside row here, and this is row number 1. So again, I'm putting a zip tie in, taking my petal, going to wrap a zip tie around the petal, not too tight, but enough that it's not going to let loose. I'm taking my petal, and I kind of put it between my thumb and my pointer finger and kind of push And it just gives it some leeway here for the zip tie to go through from the board, and zip it really tight at the base here. And you're going to cut that base zip tie off. Okay, so we have 8 of these now in place. Okay, now to do the outside, which is the trickiest part of the rose tutorial, or the rose wreath, and that's why I'm showing you it without all the mesh on there, is because you want to tuck in these corners to each other's neighbors. And what I mean by that is this corner is going to go through this zip tie. Do you see that right there? Now, if you would like, you can put a little dab of glue here and put your corner in that zip tie and just hold it, and make sure you're not holding it with your finger, but hold it there. And then you're going to take this one that's on the opposite side, and you're also going to put that through this zip tie right here. So each neighbor's corner is going to go in each other's home, if that makes any sense. Okay, so this one is going through here, this one is going through here. Now I'm not going to hot glue it, I'm just going to zip it up. So I'm going to hold these two. Now if you can't do it for your hand's sake, grab your clothespin and just clip it to the board, just like that. So you can let go, lift up your board a little bit, and you're going to tighten this zip tie now. Okay, notice that the tails are still going inwards for this outside piece. And then we're going to clip off that zip tie. Okay, and now I'm going to do this one right here. So we'll just keep going around the board. So now this one is underneath, so we'll just keep it underneath. So it's no sense going over top. We'll just keep this one underneath. As you can see, get this one that's next to it. Make sure it's still one uniform piece. Put it into the zip tie as well. All right, you can see both pieces. Again, I can put my clothespin to hold it onto my board in place. I'm going to lift it up, and I'm going to tighten up that zip tie. Okay, I'll do one more, and then the rest you probably can get the gist of, right? Okay, so I can take this clothespin off now. Okay, this one's already over top, so I'm going to put this one in here. Now we don't want these smushed down. Okay, and then this one, oh, I still have one over here. And this one in here. So they're both, those corners beside each other are in the opposite. Again, you can use hot glue if you want to keep it in place. I zip them pretty tight, so I'm not worried about them moving. But sometimes if you're using 10-inch, it's a little bit trickier. So go ahead and use that that hot glue, and then you're going to pull this tight. And again, now you can clip off your zip ties after you've done. And again, I have to put this one in. Do one more here. Okay, zip tie around the bottom. Enough that it's going to hold it in place. I'm going to take my petal, take my zip tie, go through the back of the petal, zip it to the board, just like that. Pull this nice and tight, snip that off, and we're going to take this corner and again put it in over top of here. Okay, you can put your clothespin in, or just hold it like I am with my fingers and zip it up nice and tight. Okay, that is it for the outside. And you do this going all the way around. Now you may have some smushing, but once you got everything zipped in and it's locked into place, you can start pulling your mesh to form the outside of the rose. Okay, that is the outside of the rose. So you guys will have that down pat, and I am going to now show you the inside of the rose, which is even easier. So if you can do the outside of the rose, you can most definitely do the rest of the rose. Okay, we'll see you guys in a sec. Hi everybody, so we're back. So we have the outside of our rose. You can see how it looks looking like a formation of the outside of a rose. Now, like I said before, you would probably do this at the very end, but for this purpose, I did the outside so you can see it. So now I'm going to start on the inside, and you'll see why I do the outside last, because as I'm working in the inside of this rose, you're going to see my arms are going to be pushing down the petals, and that's exactly why I do the outside of the rose first or last. Okay, so it doesn't get pushed down. So I'm going to try my best not to push these down. Okay, so like I said, we are going to use the exact same petal as we've done all throughout the rest of this rose. I have some pre-made ones, so what I do is I've cut my mesh and I've folded them. They're not the best, but it doesn't matter because these edges will not be seen. I do use my clothespin, so I've pre-made a few of them and just tossed them to the side, because what we're going to do now is we're going to just start slipping these petals into the zip ties, and it will start forming the rose just like you see in all the pictures. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take the end of your tail here and you're just going to slip it through this zip tie, and this is why it's so much easier to preload your zip ties. Now I'm going to cut this as I'm going. I have a little bucket at the side here just for my zip tie tails, and I'm just going to start. We're starting in row number 5, and we're just going to start bringing this in. Now you can do every other, so 2 going outside and 2 going inside. It does form a nicer bud, but once you do a few of these, you'll figure out which way you like to do it. So I'm going to do it one in and one going out, just for tutorial sake. Okay, so what is going to happen is we're going to take one of these and we're going to start forming a bud. Okay, and then these are going to wrap around it. So I'm going to take another one. Now it's hard to for the first row is hard to get going. I have taught in the past that you can use an elastic once you get the bud starting to form. I'm using 21-inch mesh, so I don't really need the elastic, but you can use it if you choose to. And I'll tell you where to put your elastic and when once we get going through this. So I did this one on the outside. This one I'll just do going towards the middle. Okay. And I know you can see a lot of fray, but that's okay. We won't see that when we're finished. So we have one more on section 5. And I'm going to do this one on the going towards the outside. So I did 2 going towards the inside, 2 going to the outside. Now, when you're doing your own rows, you may figure out you like them all going towards the outside, or you like them all going towards the inside. I want you guys to figure out which way you like. Okay, so just pick a petal. I've kind of picked this one right here and started my bud. Okay, so I'm going to make sure it's still trying one uniform piece. Okay, and I'm going to form this kind of wrapping around like this. Now, when you're doing your center, you can use a little bit of hot glue just on the inside, like put a little bit here and then just hold it, put a little bit here and then hold it, just to get your formation started. Okay, now I'm going to go around and I'm going to kind of spin my board with me. And I'm just wrapping each piece going around the center. Okay, it's kind of hugging itself. And deco mesh loves to stick to deco mesh, so there is not a problem with that. So that is the formation of your center. Now, you can put an elastic, or you can just, I'm just going to put some clothespins here, because the next row will contain everything in this bud here. So I'm just going to kind of wrap this around, and again, put another clothespin right here. Okay, use an elastic, that will help. I want to show you guys how to do it with the very minimal tools available or products available. If you don't have an elastic, you can use a piece of string, or you don't have to use anything. Okay, so now we're going to go on row number 4. Okay, and there's like 8 of these now that we're going to go, and we're going to take our petal, and this time all of these are going towards the outside. So the rest of the whole flower is going to go towards the outside, the tail. Okay, so I'm going to take and put the tail in the zip tie, and hopefully you can see that, and just zip it down. And as I put these in, I'm going to take each piece and go around. Okay, now I'm going to take this one, and don't fret until you're at the very end of your rows, because it will come all together, I promise, because it all forms together and holds each other, like all petals hold each other in place. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what it does. So I'm just kind of going around, and I keep forming. Okay, I have this one. I have to make some more petals up here. This burgundy is going to be so beautiful. So again, I'm making my petal, bringing it down. I'm trying to make one uniform piece. 21-inch mesh I do not use a lot of, but I do, however, love it for the rose, and I love it for the big, large daisies. So that's pretty much the only time I do use 21-inch. I just love it for the rose because it does make such a more brilliant colored flower. And there's no, doesn't matter even if you use thin mesh, you won't see the board. Okay, so basically that is all we keep doing. We're going to keep going around and around, folding and hugging each petal into each other. I'll do one more. And then once I've done row 4, I'm going to do the exact same thing on row 3. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing on row 2. Now row 2 has 16 petals. So it does get quite full, and that's why I showed you the outside row first, because it will be really hard to see the outside row once all this mesh gets in there. And you can see how full it's getting already, and I'm not even a quarter of the way done the rows. Okay, so we'll just keep. Now we'll come back, and some of these little corners, they like to pop out where they're not supposed to be popping out. We're going to have a little bit of string. We'll do all that at the end. We'll cut all that stuff off, and we'll do some tidying up. But that is basically the construction of the Unique in the Creek rose. It's just layering on layering with this petal formation going around the board for each row. Okay, so I'm going to continue on finishing row 2. I'm going to do row 3. I'm going to do row 4, and I'm going to come back to you guys when I'm almost done row 4, and we can put this thing all together, and I'll show you how to do some green leaves. Okay, guys, so you're going to pause it now. Okay, we're back. So this is almost completed. Isn't this awesome? Look how full this is. And I just did exactly what I showed you. I just kept going around with my petals. I still have 2 more zip ties here that I have to fill in with petals. Now, as you can see, the 21-inch makes a very large rose. And should you not want such a huge rose, or you're short on materials, you can actually use every other one on row 2. Okay, so you don't really have to, but if you're gonna, this only took 1 roll and a little bit. If I didn't do these 4 center holes and just did this section number 4, the bud would still look the same. I would have used less mesh, and I would only have used 1 roll. Because I did the 4 in here in the inner part, I used 1 roll and a little bit, so 4 more pieces. So this is what we have. This is our nice neat back. Nothing scratching, nothing to cover up. Absolutely beautiful, very professional looking. Put your stamp or your sticker right there when you make your wreath, just in case you're selling at a craft show or something and somebody buys your wreath. Their friends are definitely going to want to know where to purchase one just like it, and that person will be able to say, so and so made it, here's her information. Okay, I'm going to finish adding these 2. Now I did use clothespins as I'm going, and I'm using clothespins so I can push it up, because you can see it's very, very full. So I got 2 more pieces left to go. So again, I'm going to try and do this upside down. I'm just going to, hopefully you guys can see, it's just going right in to the zip tie. I'm zipping it up. I'm going to cut off the tail of that zip tie. Okay, and I have 1 more. So 1 more right there. As you can see, my petals are not like the perfect petals, but you won't be able to see with all this mesh. Now you can see why I did the outside row to show you first, because in midst all of this mesh, it would have been really hard. Okay, so now I'm going to wrap that one I just did and put that one in. So everybody, I can take this off. So this is going in, tucking in here. This is tucking in here. Oh, this one slipped out, which is okay, because I will just hot glue it. I have my hot glue gun on. Okay, now I'm going to go around for any of the petals or the corners that don't want to stay where I want them to stay. What you can do is you can take a little bit of hot glue, just a dab, on your mesh, okay, and then just put that petal, don't touch the hot glue, and just put that corner where it's supposed to be. Normally the center ones don't like to go where they're supposed to be, so you have to make it go where they're supposed to be. So you fix that with a little bit of hot glue. Okay, your center, you want to make sure it's wrapped around. Now again, I didn't use any string or any elastic or anything. I wanted to keep it as simple, just in case you don't have those materials. Okay, and then I'm just gonna put a little bit of hot glue on the corner here, just so my bud stays down the way I want it. Okay, and you can just keep forming these around however you want your rose to look. Okay, some people glue as they're going. That's your own prerogative. That way the tails don't come up. But once you've got everything butting into each other, you can see how it stays together. Okay. Now I had an outside one pop off. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue right on the back here. Don't want to use too much because you don't want overkill. Okay, I did have one of these come off the back right here. So I could just snip this zip tie off and redo the zip tie, or I can just add a little bit of hot glue right onto the board. Okay, and then just put this corner in there. I'm not going to touch it. I will just grab one of my clothespins and hold it onto the glue like so. That way that outside piece. But like I said, you can cut this one and redo it, especially if it's for a customer and you want it perfect. You could just snip this off and retuck it back into that zip tie. Okay, so that's the back. That's the front. Is this not gorgeous? Beautiful round petals. Very full and round. And now I'm going to make some leaves. Okay, this is just green fabric mesh. I just happen to have it beside me. I really like fabric mesh. It's very pliable. The only thing is it shreds quite easy. So there's pros and cons to it. But I'm just going to add a few little leaves. You can do leaves all the way around your rose if you want. I like to just have just a few. So I'm just going to do maybe 4. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut your mesh. This is a 10-inch roll. I cut it 10 by 10. Turn it into a diamond, and I just scrunch from one corner to the other corner. Okay, and you got this kind of leaf formation. You're just going to flip it up, and I use my clothespins. Okay, I'm going to put 2 and 2, so 4 leaves in 2 spots. So there's 2. Apologize for my phone. I forgot to turn my phone down. So 3. And this would be how you could do one of many sunflower folds. This is the easiest kind of sunflower petal to do. Okay, so I have 4, and I can take this off now that my thing is glued onto my board. We have our hanging holes, which on my initial board I had put in, but this is going to be the top of your rose. So if this is the top, you have to decide where you would like to put some green petals. I just like to sometimes do them kitty corner, so there's 8 holes on the outside. And if you like to do them like everything the same, if you have like a bit of OCD or whatever, all you have to do is take one hole and you can go directly across and do the other hole. So you'll have your leaves perpendicular to each other. So I think that's what I'll do. So this is the top, and all you do is to put your leaves in. I'm going to do it upside down just to show you guys. You're going to use this hole again, even though we call it a shared hole in Unique in the Creek, because you can, all of these are shared holes. So you could use, if you're doing a certain pattern, you can use from here to here. You can use these holes over again. It's just completely endless. So I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to do this upside down. You're going to take your petal. Now, because I want the nice fold to be on the outside of the rose, I'm going to put this, and I'm going to take a second one because I'm going to do 4 petals. 4 petals in 2 spots. So I got these 4 petals, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this one upside down, and then the other side I'll do with it right side up. I'm going to put these over top of my zip tie, zip it. Okay, now I'm doing it upside down, so I want to make sure that this is on the board. Okay, and then zip it tight. That is it. Now you can pull them and place them however you want, but as you can see, there's your 4 green petals. Now I'm going to now do the other 4 green petals right across from it. So I'm going to do it right here, but this time I'm going to do it this way. And it might be a lot harder to see, but what I'm doing is I'm putting my zip tie on the board, Okay, and I kind of put it that it's an L shaped. Okay, so the zip tie is right there. I'm gonna again take my 2 petals. Now you can do all 8 around the board, you can do 16, you can do 1, you can do none. It is totally up to you, it's your creation. Okay, so I've got these in my finger. I'm gonna put this rounded part, put the zip tie in between. Sorry, it keeps sliding away on me. Zip it up. Make sure it's on the board. Usually if you're doing it like this, it's right on the board. The other way I was upside down. Pull it tight. Take your zip tie and cut it off, and you're done. You are done a huge rose with 1 roll of 21-inch mesh. Now you can use 10-inch mesh. It won't be as full as mine, but it will still turn out. You want to make sure it's not very thin mesh. If you have a very thin mesh, use your judgment. If you can see through it really well, it's going to show the board. So you want to make sure you use 2 pieces because there is some pretty crappy mesh out there. But you never fail with 21-inch. So this is, let's see how big this is. This is, without the leaves, it is 20 inches. Okay, and with the leaves, it's about 24. Now, when you're packing this, you do not need a very large box because it's only about 4 inches, not even 4 inches high. This will fit between 2 doors, okay? And if you're packing it, you would just pack it in a 22 by 22 by 5 box. And when you put it in, just fold up the leaves like this. So when your customer takes it out of the box, the leaves fall back in place. And make sure you do your adjustments and stuff for your rose. And that's it. That is the Unique in the Creek rose on the large Unique in the Creek flower frame. Thank you, everybody, and have a great day. Bye-bye.